All right, looks like we're going to have Trig lecture 10, 26, and 27 today. Given an angle in standard position, that means that the positive x-axis is going to be the initial side, and then we're going to rotate positively or negatively. Given an angle in standard position, and it's given to us in radian measure, the student will determine the quadrant in which the terminal side of the angle lies. Well, there are a couple of ways you can do this. You can count by radians as you're rotating, or you can change your radian measure to degree measure, and then determine the angle in the quadrant in which it lies. So let's take a look at this. And my computer is not talking to my board. Let's see. You think I would try to make sure that was happening before I started filming, but no, that's not how I roll. Alright, so we are going to try to determine the quadrant in which the terminal side lies if the angle is given to us in radians. State the quadrant in which the terminal side of the angle lies. What most kids like to do is to just go ahead and convert it to degrees, so they'll multiply by 180 over pi. That will cause the pi's to cancel. Notice there's no addition or subtraction going on here. These are all factors. 19 times pi times 180, 8 times pi. So we can cancel. And now with my calculator, I'm just going to go 19 times 180 divided by 8. 19 times 180 divided by 8, and see what I get. Gives me 427.5 degrees. That's what this radian measure is in degrees, 427, I think I said 0.5. So I want to know what quadrant that's in. So what I'm going to do is sketch a set of axes real quick. Let me scroll this so you guys can see it a little better. There we go. Here's a set of axes. There's the y-axis, the x-axis, the origin. My positive x-axis is my initial side. And from here, I'm going to rotate in a positive direction 427.5 degrees. Let me make sure that that's right. Yeah, it is. And then I'm going to stop and determine what quadrant I'm in. And remember, this is quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. So here we go. I'm going to rotate. Here's a rotation of 360 degrees right here. And I'm just going to go, if I want another 50 degrees, or I'm sorry, another 90 degrees right here, 360, that'll take me up to 450. So I know that 427.5 has got to be between 360 and 450. So it's up here somewhere. So I'm clearly in quadrant 1. So my answer here is quadrant 1. Okay, so that means that 19 pi over 8 is a quadrant 1 angle, providing I haven't made any mistakes. I don't think I have. Okay, so I rotated on up here somewhere in the quadrant 1. I didn't count to make sure that that was accurate or anything. I know I'm not going to go all the way to this axis right here. So let's take a look at 17 pi over 6. We'll do basically the same thing. We're going to multiply by 180 over pi. That will change it to degrees and make it a little easier for those of us who are used to working in degrees to figure out where this thing's going to lie. These will cancel, and this will give me 17 times 180 divided by 6, or 17 times 30. 17. 510, if I haven't made a mistake. So I'm looking at 510 degrees. We'll go ahead and rotate that and determine what quadrant we're going to stop in. There's the y-axis, x-axis, there's my origin. Our initial side is the positive x-axis. We're going to rotate in a positive direction because this doesn't say negative 17 pi over 6. So we're going to rotate 510 degrees, which is 17 pi over 6 radians, and determine the quadrant in which we stop. So here we go. Here's 360 degrees, 450 degrees. Go another 90, that would be 540 degrees. So I know I'm somewhere in quadrant 2. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4. And if we go 360, 450, if I went all the way to here, if I went like this, I'd be at 540. So I've passed 510. That means that I've got this angle will stop somewhere in quadrant 2. 360, 450, and then what, another 60 degrees or so, something like that, maybe. Did that in my head, but I know I'm in quadrant 2. So our answer is quadrant 2. Okay. And these are rough graphs. All I care about is which quadrant I'm stopping in. I'm not trying to get it really accurate. I'm just trying to answer the question. What quadrant? State the quadrant. Here we go. We're going to rotate it in a negative direction this time. That makes a big difference. I'm going to go ahead and do what I've seen most kids like to do, which is convert it to degrees. And when I do that, that will give me 7 times 180 divided by 3, or 7 times 60. And that's 420, it will be negative. So I'm going to rotate from the positive x-axis, which is our initial side in standard position. Here's our xy axes. Here's our initial side, the positive x-axis. It tells us in the instructions that we're in standard position. We're going to rotate negative 420 degrees and determine what quadrant we're in. So here we go. Rotating in a negative direction, here's negative 360. If I go another 90 degrees, that would be 450. So I know that it's going to be somewhere in quadrant 4. So what we have here is a quadrant 4 angle. Again, providing I haven't made any mistakes. Hopefully that made sense. I rotated in a negative direction, 360. If I went another 90, that would be 450. So I would be passing 420. So 420 would stop somewhere in quadrant 4. And that's what we're asked to identify. And the last one, negative 7 pi over 4, another negative one. So real quickly, I'm going to multiply by 180 over pi. Whoops. It's early and my brain is not working well. 180 over pi, yay. And we will cancel these pi's and multiply 7 times 180 divided by 4, or 7 times 45. And that's 315, and it will be negative 315 degrees. Oops. Let me get this up here where we can see it a little better. Y-axis, x-axis, origin. The initial side is the positive x-axis. We're going to rotate in a negative direction 315 degrees. Well, here's negative 90, negative 180, negative 270. If I go all the way to 360, I'll pass negative 315. So I'm at negative 270. So somewhere in here is where our angle is going to lie. And that's a quadrant 1 angle. This is quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. Okay, so our answer would be quadrant one. Again, providing I didn't make any mistakes. I don't think I did, but I have been known to make them. So there we go. What did we do? We were given angles in radian measure, and we determined what quadrant in which, where the terminal side lies by converting radian measure to degrees and then just sketching it roughly. And in each case, we were able to determine the quadrant in which it lies. Yay! Best of luck.